Well, welcome to the Language Forge feature walkthrough. My name is Christopher Hurt. I'm the Language Forge team lead, and I'm happy to take you through the main features of Language Forge today. There are several resources for those if you're interested in getting to know Language Forge more or in reporting bugs. The language software community page that is listed here is a good resource for asking questions and getting answers from other people. It's also a good place to keep a pulse on development. You can, just recently I have started publishing YouTube videos of the release highlights. So bite-sized videos that you can watch to see what are the features that were released for that particular release. So we've had one release per month, starting with 1.8 in August, 1.9 September, 1.10 in October, and 1.11 in November. All of our development happens in an open source fashion on GitHub, and so you can watch us interact with us with issues and our project board here on GitHub. All right, let's go ahead and jump into how you can use Language Forge. I want to start off by saying that this presentation is geared towards Flex users. Really, the way that Language Forge has developed and evolved, it's really morphed into a tool that benefits Flex users the most. And that's the way that I see it going. So the assumption is that you already use Flex and you already have your project in Language Depot. When you log into Language Forge and you get for the first time, there's a button that says start or join a new project. So you click this button and then you immediately click this next button for getting a project from Language Depot. It presents you with a login screen, and the important part about this, and admittedly this is confusing, is that this asks you to enter your Language Depot username and password. Once you have entered those credentials correctly, then you'll be presented with a drop-down box to pick a project that you are a manager on and can pull into Language Forge. So you click on Join Project and wait a few minutes for the send and receive process to complete, and then your data will be available on the web and on the phone with Language Forge. So what are the things that you can do with Language Forge? Well, we emphasize collaboration as one of the key features of sharing your data. So sharing your dictionary, collaborating with others, that's one of the killer features of Language Forge. There's a button at the top right of Language Forge called Share, and that opens this dialog box here. There's different options for sharing. The most common one for inviting someone is typically via email. So you punch in their email in this slot, give them the appropriate access. So you can choose to have them manage, edit, comment, or view your dictionary project, and then just simply click the send button, and they will be invited to the project via email. The other option is with a persistent invitation link. Now this one you can also set the access permissions to, and this one you could post in a private Facebook group or send to different contacts on WhatsApp. Really it's just a link that onboards people into Language Forge and onto your project at a certain access level. The other sort of bottom part of this dialog allows you to change the access level of those who are already on the project. So you can see who they are, you can change their role or their access level, and you can remove them as necessary. Now, as a manager, you always get the share button, even if you haven't allowed others on the project to share it. This small little innocent looking checkbox down here is actually really powerful. And when it's checked, then anyone who is on the project can click the share button and invite other people. So they're not allowed to change their access or other people's access, but they are allowed to invite other people with an email or a link. So that's one way that you can sort of allow the community to sort of expand access to the dictionary in a controlled way. The other, what I would consider a killer feature of Language Forge is that the dictionary is available on the web and specifically on mobile phones. Language Forge is an online application, so it does require internet connection to function. But these are screenshots I took yesterday as I was preparing for this presentation, and Language Forge looks pretty good on a phone. There's the browsing the entries list, and then when you click on an entry list, then you get all of the different fields that are available, and you can just scroll through with your thumb, and you can also comment on different entries. So this is the comment pane kind of sliding out from the right. The dictionary is available to be, it's both available as an application that can be installed via Google Play. It's also available to just add to your home screen as a progressive web app. So here it is sitting as an icon on my Android phone. So editing the dictionary, this is just a little animation to show you. You can just scroll through the entries and then click on one. And you can go all the way down to the bottom. There's a lot of different fields in this particular, a lot of different fields that are enabled in this particular dictionary. I'm going to go ahead and modify one of the, I'm going to add an example sentence here. And so typing into, normally the on-screen keyboard would come up. I'm using an external keyboard here. And the fields adjust to the height of the data. And then, there's, you can also comment on a field, which I think I'm going to comment up here. Right, so I'll make a note. We need to fill in the Spanish note here, and then post that. And that just shows up as a note that is visible in the dictionary, and other people can see it. So it is possible to edit the dictionary on your phone. As much as you can do with a few fingers. And Language Forge does support audio. It supports audio writing systems specifically. And so how do you configure those? Well, if you don't have an audio writing system set up in Flex, you can add it directly in Language Forge. And there's a configuration area in Language Forge and an input systems tab, which is really basic. And then there's a little drop down that says add voice for the particular language that you've already enabled. So our Language Forge input systems configuration is all very basic compared to what you can do in Flex, but it does synchronize with Flex in the best way that it can right now. So once you've got a voice writing system or an audio writing system enabled, then you'll see a field that looks something like this. It's got a microphone button and an upload button. If you click on the microphone button, then the field changes to something like this. You can record right from your web browser on your laptop, or you can record from your mobile phone. If you click the upload button, you'll get a browse button that can take you to adding a file. This does work on your phone, so you can record in a separate app and then upload the file from your phone right into Language Forge and then playback. So that works. Pictures. Language Forge supports displaying and uploading pictures. There's not much to it. Pictures are not, the picture field is not shown by default, so you have to click on Show Extra Fields, and then you'll see the picture field here. This one's already added, so you can, there's a little delete icon if you want to remove that picture. This is a screenshot of me clicking on Browse on my mobile phone last night, and you can use your phone's camera to take the picture, and then it will go directly into saving and uploading into Language Forge. Part of the collaboration feature of Language Forge is the ability to comment on any field of the entry. And so you can develop a process working through your dictionary with commenting. Admittedly, there's a lot of UI here, and it's not necessarily obvious how all of this works. And so one thing, we'd like to improve the UI going forward. But briefly, there is a separate commenting pane that's accessible with this button here. It sits to the right of the entry. Each field has a button that can be clicked to post or see comments related to that field. Comments have a status associated with them. The default status is unresolved. A comment can also be marked as to do or resolved. Resolved comments do not show up as like an active comment, both here in this button, the little badge icon here, and also in the list, there's an orange indicator to show that there's an unresolved or to-do item. You can also use the filter entries by and select comments so that you just display entries that have an unresolved or to-do comment. So you can think of some ways that you could use these comments, use the comments mechanism to work collaboratively through your dictionary. And I would like to have more features around processing entries with comments that would be helpful to Flex users and Language Forge users. I think there's some ways we can improve this. Searching is pretty basic. There's a results list. This is the search bar showing here in this list, the navigation list that sits to the side of the entry view. And you just type in there and the list starts to change, showing you search results. Direct results in the head word are highlighted. And so matches you can see there. The ordering of these, I think we would like to improve, but just briefly, direct matches and whole word matches tend to bubble to the top, whereas matches in other fields of the entry result in a hit, but it's not immediately apparent which field is a match. There's two options currently for searching. You can search on whole word, and you can also match diacritics. One of the changes we made recently was to make our search diacritic agnostic. So you can search for CA, CHA, and you'll get in this case, the match diacritics is checked, but you would get a match that had an accent over the C as well. Filtering and sorting, the intention, again, these are basic really compared to what you can do in Flex. but the intention is you can find some empty fields, specifically the word, the lexeme form or citation form, and writing systems specifically for those fields. Then you can also find entries that have comments or example sentences or pictures or audio, and those you can find in this filter entries by dropdown. Sorting is also very basic, and just recently there was a query about sorting on our community site, but essentially sorting is done using the default Unicode sort order according to the vernacular language tag, if possible. So that we don't currently have the ability to customize the sort, which is kind of the standard for minority languages that you would be analyzing and documenting in Flex. So there's room for improvement there. Then there's a reverse button so that you can reverse the order if you'd like. When any of the sorting or filtering options are clicked to, differing from the default, then you get this little orange circle here showing you that some option isn't enabled and you can reset it to the default. In Language Forge, you can customize quite specifically who can see what field and who can see what writing system. So it is possible to collaborate on the dictionary with one person only seeing part of the dictionary or seeing a certain language. There's also room for improvement here, and I've got some ideas of ways that we could enable this to work more effectively. But suffice it to say, right now you can add member-specific settings for individuals. You can also customize it for different roles. So probably the most common use case outside of collaboration is that a lexicon in Flex, you've got fields that you don't necessarily want to share. So those things could sort of be just unchecked from maybe the observer role or the contributor role that you're inviting other people to come and participate in your dictionary. But you don't want those fields to be touched or seen. Another big feature that we haven't advertised really because it's not quite finished is viewing project activity. And there is a link for this, and I'd like to make it more prominent because it is useful. But you can view activity for all projects that you're a part of by clicking the My Projects link here, and then at the bottom, activity for all projects. This takes you to this screen here, which essentially itemizes Language Forge user activity by date. And you can see comments that have been made. You can see changes to the data, when and by who, and it just kind of scrolls in an activity feed type of a format. One improvement that I would like to see for this view is to include changes that users make in Flex in the activity field. Currently, anything that's done in Flex is not reflected in this project activity. So I think that would be possible. However, Flex doesn't have a robust identity mechanism, and so it would get a little bit be a little bit of gray area there with attribution to who made what changes. So syncing with Flex, send and receive using Language Forge, like I talked at the very beginning, the project is initially synced with Flex, and anytime the Language Forge manager of the project may click the synchronize button, and after waiting a few minutes, the data will be available to pull down into Flex. Pretty much everything that you see in Language Forge, all of the data fields, the audio and the images, the comments, and the writing systems sync with Flex. So you can see two sort of entry views here, one in Language Forge and one in Flex, with the picture, and this is the audio playback that I recorded on my my Language Forge in browser, showing up here in Flex. I do want to talk about Language Depot because this is an important component of Flex send and receive, how people use Flex these days. So as you know, Language Depot is our cloud repository for lexical data. Both WeSay and Flex support send and receive with Language Depot, but for the purpose of this presentation, we'll just be focusing on Flex send and receive. Today, it's possible to register an account with Language Depot, though I find it to be cumbersome, and it's a manual process involving exchanging emails with the Language Depot administrator. There's also the issue of duplicate identity between Language Depot and Language Forge, which is confusing. And finally, the naming is quite similar, and so there's confusion across products, like which one is which and what are their functions. The way that I envision Language Depot in the future is actually to combine Language Forge and Language Depot and retire the name Language Depot. So we'll just be using Language Forge. There's no timeline on when this will occur, but this is my vision for it. We would have a single identity for Flex send and receive in Language Forge, which would be your Language Forge username and password, and you would just use that for both products. And then finally, be able to create and manage the send and receive repos yourself without having to correspond with someone over email. So that is my kind of walkthrough of the Language Forge product, and I'm really glad to share this with you. So thank you for your support.